You've been conditioned to believe that quitting is the ultimate act of professional agency, a bold declaration of your worth, where you take the steering wheel of your life and drive away from a toxic situation with your head held high. We are taught that being fired is a mark of shame, a scarlet letter on your resume that signals failure, incompetence, or a lack of character. You think that by handing in your 2 weeks' notice, you are winning because you are leaving on your own terms. But as you sit at your desk, drafting that resignation email while staring at a bank account that isn't quite ready for a 6-month gap, you need to realize that the graceful exit is often the most expensive mistake you will ever make. The truth is, in the cold transactional world of corporate logistics, a quitting is essentially giving the company a massive unearned gift. When you walk away voluntarily, you are absolving the organization of every financial and legal obligation they have toward you. You are handing them back their budget, their liability, and their peace of mind, all in exchange for a temporary hit of ego-driven catharchy. You isn't being professional by quitting. You are being exploited by a system that has convinced you that your dignity is more valuable than your severance. The smartest person in the room doesn't quit a job they hate. They wait for the company to pay them to leave. You aren't being paranoid for wanting to stay until the bitter end. You are practicing a high-level form of financial defense that the ambitious crowd is too proud to understand. Think about the daily reality of your current role. You're being gaslit by a manager who moves deadlines in the middle of the night. You're being excluded from the meetings where your own projects are discussed. You feel the walls closing in, and every fiber of your being is screaming at you to just walk out and never look back. It's a relatable, crushing weight. You feel that if you stay one more day, you'll lose your mind. This is where the tension becomes unbearable. You want the pain to stop, so you prepare to quit. But here's the part nobody tells you. The company wants you to feel this way. They are effectively quiet firing you, creating an environment so miserable that you do the hard work of terminating yourself for them. When you quit, you lose your right to unemployment benefits. You lose your healthcare coverage immediately. You lose the months of pay that come with a severance package. You are essentially paying a sanity tax to the very people who took your sanity in the first place. You feel like a failure for staying, but the real failure is letting a multi-billion-dollar entity keep the money that should be funding your transition to a better life. The hidden truth behind the corporate curtain is that every seat in the office has a decommissioning cost. Companies have budgets set aside for layoffs, restructures, and mutual separations. They expect to pay a price to move people out, but they will only pay that price if they have to. If they can trick you into believing that good people quit, or that it's better for your reputation to resign, they save tens of thousands of dollars per head. Here's what actually happens. When a manager wants you gone, they don't usually fire you for cause right away because that's legally risky and requires a mountain of HR documentation. Instead, they try to starve you out. They make the work unfulfilling, the hours long, and the recognition non-existent. They are waiting for you to break. If you break and quit, they win. If you stay, do your job at a baseline level, and wait for the restructuring, you win. You think it's about your performance, but it's actually about their patience. You have to realize that being let go in a corporate realignment is the most profitable event that can happen in your career. It is a tax-free injection of capital that allows you to choose your next move from a position of strength rather than a position of desperation. And deep office politics is governed by the law of legal friction. Corporations are terrified of two things: lawsuits and bad PR. When they fire you, they are creating a legal vulnerability. To close that vulnerability, they offer you a severance agreement. This is not a gift. It is a hush money contract. They are paying you to sign a document that says you won't sue them and you won't disparage them. When you quit, you give them that silence for free. You are essentially a consultant who just handed over $1 million strategy for a thank you card. Decisions about who stays during a layoff are often made based on who is the easiest to remove. If you have been loud about your unhappiness and have hinted that you might leave soon, they will put you at the top of the list, but they will wait for you to jump first. The social dynamics of power dictate that the person who moves first loses the leverage. By staying, maintaining a professional but unpromotable presence, and letting the clock run out, you are forcing the company to buy your exit. You are moving from the emotional layer of the conflict to the economic layer, and this is where most people get stuck. They worry about the stigma of being fired. They think the next hiring manager is going to view them as damaged goods, but you think it works like this, and it doesn't. In the modern era of massive corporate right-sizing, being part of a layoff is a neutral event. In many industries, it's actually seen as a rite of passage. When you tell a recruiter, "My department was restructured, and I was given a transition package," they don't hear he was bad at his job. They hear he was a victim of corporate math. However, if you say, "I quit because I was unhappy," they hear this person is a flight risk who leaves when things get tough. The reality shift you need to make is understanding that fired is a broad term that covers everything from stealing from the till to being the victim of a budget cut. As long as you aren't fired for gross misconduct, you are in the clear. Your current approach of protecting your pride is actually destroying your safety net. You have to reframe your understanding of the end of a job. It is not a divorce. It is the termination of a service contract. You wouldn't let a client cancel a contract without paying the termination fee, so why are you doing it for your employer? Subtle solutions for this transition require a cold professionalism that most people find uncomfortable. It starts with the quiet withdrawal. You stop being the hero. You stop solving the problems that aren't in your job description. You become the most standard employee the company has ever seen. You arrive at 9 o'clock, you leave at 5 o'clock, and you deliver exactly what is asked of you. No more, no less. This is how you manage the perception of your value. If you are too good, they won't fire you because you're too profitable. If you are too bad, they will fire you for cause and deny you severance. You have to find that severance sweet spot, being a competent person who is simply no longer aligned with the future direction of the department. You start documenting every interaction with your manager, not for your ego, but for your legal folder. You make sure that if they try to push you out without a package, you have the evidence of their shifting goalposts and their lack of support. You are building a case for negotiation while still collecting your full salary. Visibility during this phase should be strategically selective. You don't want to be the person the CEO remembers as a problem, but you also don't want to be the person they forget is even there. You want to be visible enough to be seen as a senior resource, but disengaged enough to be seen as redundant. This is a delicate dance of communication. In your one-on-ones, you stop asking for more work and start asking about long-term departmental stability and strategic pivots. You are signaling that you are aware of the company's struggles. You are positioning yourself as a professional who knows the writing is on the wall and is waiting for the formal announcement. This makes the HR representative's job easier when the time comes. They see you as someone who will sign the severance agreement quietly and move on, which makes them more likely to offer you a better package to ensure a clean break. Relationships are your insurance policy during the wait. While you are waiting for the axe to fall, you should be strengthening your ties with colleagues in other companies. You are essentially job hunting on the company's dime. This is the part nobody tells you. The best time to look for work is when you are at risk but still employed. You can go into interviews with the confidence of someone who has a steady paycheck while knowing that a windfall is coming. When the layoff finally happens, you don't react with shock or anger. You react with prepared acceptance. You look at the severance offer, you take it home, and you negotiate. You ask for more months of pay. You ask for extended COBRA coverage, and you ask for the non-disparagement clause to be mutual. Because you haven't quit, you have the leverage of silence. They want you to go away quietly, and you are going to make them pay for that silence. Strategy in the final meeting is about the pivot. When they tell you your role is being eliminated, the average employee starts defending their performance. They try to prove why they should stay. But the smart player says, "I understand that the business needs are changing. Let's talk about the transition package that will allow us to part ways amicably." In that one sentence, you have taken control of the room. You have signaled that you aren't going to be a problem, but you are also not a pushover. You are treating the firing as a business exit. This reality shift turns a traumatic event into a financial victory. You walk out of the building not as a victim, but as a liquid asset. You have 3, 6, or even 12 months of pay sitting in your bank account, and your entire day is now free to find a job that actually deserves your talent. You have been paid to leave a place you hated anyway. That is the ultimate corporate hack. Here's what actually happens when you quit versus when you get fired. The person who quits on Friday is looking for a job on Monday with $0 in extra income and a gap they have to explain. The person who gets fired on Friday is looking for a job on Monday with a $40,000 check and a restructure story that everyone understands. You think you're being strong by quitting, but you're actually being short-sighted. You have to master the art of professional endurance. It is uncomfortable to stay in a place where you aren't wanted, but that discomfort has a price tag. If you can sit in that chair for an extra 3 months and walk away with a severance, You have effectively increased your hourly rate by 500% for that period. You are arbitraging your own exit. The ending of this narrative is about the power of waiting. In a world that demands instant gratification and emotional outbursts, the person who can sit still and wait for the strategic moment is the person who wins the game. Or you've been looking at your job as a place of belonging, but you need to see it as a series of cash flows. When the cash flow for your work stops, you want to trigger the cash flow for your departure. Quitting is leaving the casino while you still have chips on the table. Getting fired with a severance is cashing out at the peak. You aren't losing your job, you are liquidating your tenure. Every year you've spent at that company has built up a severance value. If you quit, you are forfeiting that value. If you stay, you are protecting your investment. The truth is, the moral high ground of quitting doesn't pay the mortgage. The transactional truth of being fired does. You have to stop letting the corporate ego dictate your financial decisions. Your manager, your HR rep, and your CEO don't care about your dignity. They care about their burn rate. If you provide them a way to lower that burn rate by quitting, they will take it and laugh all the way to their quarterly bonus. Don't let them. Be the professional who knows exactly what their exit is worth. Stay in the game until the cards are in your favor. Awareness of the severance truth is the difference between a career that drains you and a career that funds you. Reflect on this. The system is designed to make you feel like you are the one in control when you quit, because that is the cheapest outcome for the system. The moment you realize that getting fired is actually a negotiated exit, you have broken the final shackle of the corporate mind game. You are no longer a hired hand. You are a contractual partner who knows how to close a deal. Stop looking at the door and start looking at the contract. The exit is coming, but make sure it's an exit that puts money in your pocket, not just a weight off your shoulders. You've worked hard for that company. Don't leave without collecting the final dividend of your time. Now that you know the truth, the dread of the pink slip disappears and is replaced by the calculated anticipation of the payout. You aren't waiting to be fired. You're waiting to be paid for your time, and that is a powerful place to be. Reflect on the silence of an office where you are no longer a victim of the atmosphere, but a spectator waiting for the final act. That is the real professional maturity. The end is just the beginning of your next capital gain. Stay focused, stay professional, and wait for the check.